Mountains, high mountains. A peaceful sensation overwhelms my body, reaching mind and heart. Up here, in the extreme north of India, man can witness true mystery, more than anywhere else in the world. Not for the height of the peaks, but rather for the surrounding beauty which makes you walk on your tiptoes, makes you feel smaller, forcing you to look closely, be attentive, and fully aware. It is not by accident that this land knows a great spirituality, a call for a life of harmony for the people that inhabit it. Ladakh, with its many monasteries, has preserved for hundreds of years a tradition of peace and the search of a simple life. A relationship between man and infinity, set where earth and sky meet, delivering to the winds a call for prayer and hope. Long lines of colored flags draw horizons of peace and harmony. Winged horses deliver their messages to the wind from the highest peaks. They are the prayer flags, which never stop waving, forever exposed to the streams of air. Their colors symbolize the 5 elements: blue, white, red, green and yellow, sky, air, fire, water and earth. Little Tibet. This is a nickname given to Ladakh, a region of high mountain passes, great monasteries and Buddhist monks that have always preserved the spirituality of the Tibetan people. A community with a deep soul, which can only be understood by means of first-hand experience, sharing its memory, history and tradition. To preserve their future, these people draw inspiration from the past, a religious tradition passed on from generation to generation after having fled from their native land in order to save their very identity. A journey of discovery, revealing a living memory that lives in the faces, the eyes, the mountains, the stones chiseled by the prayers and faith of humble monks guarding an ancient word. Ladakh is the only place where Tibetans can live their faith and culture with the same intensity and truth of their homeland. It is a land that welcomed and saved the identity of people that still today, in the home of the Dalai Lama, fight against any attempt to deny their freedom. And it's here, in Ladakh, that I lived an intense experience during an unforgettable summer of more than 10 years ago. Funzog accompanies me outside of Leh, in a day which is a bit chilly to be the month of June. He's been working as a driver for a long time, helping tourists traveling in this region. He knows each and every stone of these roads. The road to Hemis is winding and steep, and the Great Gompa, the name given to monasteries, is full of visitors. The faithfuls have arrived from any corner of the valley, even from Leh, the capital, which is more than 40 kilometers away. Hemis Monastery is the greatest monastic institution of Ladakh. Thousands of pilgrims climb to the 3,600-meter altitude of the Gompa for a unique event occurring every year in June, the Hemis Festival. The monastery was built in 1605. From the outside, you can notice its large linear shape. But what is really astonishing is the magnificent central courtyard. Inside, preparations are underway. In the prayer hall, the monks recite mantras that clear the mind of any thought. The imposing statue of Padmasambhava, 8 meters tall, is continuously worshipped by the faithful. Some of them arrived days ago, on foot, or riding donkeys, or small Tibetan horses. Men and women wear traditional clothes, of rough woven wool tunics, and many of them pass time by turning small prayer wheels. During the days of the festival, it feels a bit like being in the middle of a big country fair. The throng is incredible. Tourists coming from all over the world stand near the pilgrims to admire the dances performed by the monks and their beautiful masks. Each loggiato is occupied. Hundreds of Ladakhis sit on the ground. One of the most complex and solemn aspects of Tibetan ceremonies is music, played by orchestras of monks. Its style took form between the 8th and 15th century and is derived from different influences. The use of shells as musical instruments comes from India, while the handheld drums are local. As well as the long telescopic horns, although their origin may derive from the ancient relationship established with Persia. In the monasteries, music is mostly played inside the prayer halls, as well as in the courtyards during public celebrations. Sound can provide a powerful support for meditation practice. Some tunes may help produce specific states of mind and, together with singing, help reciting the religious scriptures. The monks sing in a quick syllabic style, creating an uncanny atmosphere. Outside, the crowd is waiting. A mosaic made of hats and traditional clothes merges with the technical outfit of Western tourists, armed with video and photo cameras. The dancers descend the stairs to announce the start of the ceremony in honor of Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, a figure that had an important role in bringing Vajrayana Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Each stage of the dance performed by the monks is accompanied by deep and dramatic sounds. The chams, as these dances are named, are a form of communication that touches the hearts and minds of the audience. These ritual dances are not a spectacle, but rather an integral part of Tibetan spiritual tradition. They are performed by the monks after long hours of preparation and training in the courtyards of the gompas. Although we're not able to comprehend all the complex rituals of the chams and the symbology hidden behind each gesture, we're captured and moved by the continuous stream of images and the harmonious movements performed by the monks. Many Tibetan rituals survive thanks to the refugees, able to preserve their core identity after years of exile. After Tibet became a part of China in the 1950s, these people found a new home here and dedicated themselves in cultivating their faith in an area that shared the same Buddhist form, Vajrayana. This practice maintained the essential elements of Buddha's teaching, blending it with some cultural traits of pre-Buddhist Tibetan tradition. The goal remains man's liberation from pain and suffering, conquered when reaching a state of illumination, a superior state of consciousness beyond life and death. The dancers continue enchanting the crowd, each dancer performing a precise sequence of symbolic gestures. The origin of the cham comes from Buddha himself, who set their general principles in the Tantras, the sacred texts of Tibetan Buddhism. For 1,000 years, Tibetan gompas have performed their own cham. In honor of the first time Padmasambhava performed a cham during the construction of the first Tibetan Buddhist monastery. The monks form a circle, reproducing the lines of a mandala, enjoying their effort and concentration, looking for powerful gestures and movements. They dance with the masks made of leather and colored copper, rich in details and symbols. Other monks announce the arrival of Padmasambhava with his imposing mask. Each character of the cham wears minutely decorated costumes and oftentimes carries symbolic props. Not all the monks participate in the dance. Many of them come from other monasteries and watch the ceremony under the portico, while the lamas of Hemis, clad in the most beautiful clothes, sit in line and receive the imposition of the kata, the white scarf blessed by the Rinpoche, the most important lama of the monastery. The dancers change their costumes and pick up giant masks prepared with utmost care. Frightening skeletons appear together with other symbolic characters clad in leopard skin, while the monks keep on reciting mantras in the loggia of the courtyard. The ritual dances are not only a key religious event, but also an important moment of socialization for people living in small and isolated mountain villages. Through dance, the audience watching the cham can appreciate the great symbols of Buddhist iconography. The ritual dances of the Lama can be classified in 3 layers: external, internal, and secret. The external layer corresponds to gestures, movements and steps perceived by visual consciousness. The internal layer is represented by the symbolic decorations worn by the dancers. The secret layer is the deep essence of the charm, a state where the mind of the dancer is pure and things are seen as they are. The most fascinating part of the dances is their choreography. Costumes and masks are made with extreme care and quality. The use of expensive fabric comes with great sacrifices for the poor monastic communities. Each color has a specific symbolic meaning, and the masks made of wood, copper, brass or papier-mâché are vividly painted to enhance their deep expressions. The dancers hold in their hand ritual objects. The small drums of the dancers represent the incessant rhythm of the universe, while the metal bells remind us of the impermanence of things. The sword of wisdom instead shatters our doubts and erroneous conceptions of reality. The Hemis festival will last the whole day, among pilgrims devoted to prayers and tourists trying to grab with their cameras a glimpse of this unforgettable event. The next day the weather is changeable, but with the promise of sunny spells. We therefore decide to grab the opportunity to visit some of the nearby monasteries, before committing to a much more demanding journey. Set on top of a hill made of crystal white rocks lies the ancient summer palace of the Ladakh rulers, built in 1430, Shea Palace, towering near a monastery with the same name. The Gompa hosts a great chapel with two entrances. Inside we can admire the gigantic golden statue of the historical Buddha, 12 meters tall. The sitting Buddha is one of the biggest statues of the region, some of which of impressive size. An old tradition states that nobody can stare into the eyes of the image of the Buddha. If that is true, one wonders how it was possible to paint his eyes. Some scholars say that the iris was probably the last detail to be painted by the artists, blindfolded of course. Butter lamps are burning on the altars of the chapel, leaving permanent marks on the ceiling, a daily ritual carried out for hundreds of years. Legend is that almost 5 kilograms of gold were used to decorate the copper plates of the great statue of the monastery. The road connecting Shea to the Thiksem monastery is surrounded by white stupas or chorten as they are called in Tibetan. Some chortens may contain the ashes of a venerated lama, but most of them bear sacred images or scriptures. For many Tibetans, chortens symbolize religion itself, a votive chapel similar to the ones we can find in the Italian countryside. We can now catch a glimpse of the monastery. Thiksem is one of the most sumptuous Gompas of Ladakh, with a great number of monks that inhabit it. The structure of this monastery clearly resembles the Potala Palace of Lhasa, the majestic residence that until 1959 was the official residence of the Dalai Lama. For this reason, Thiksem Monastery is often addressed as a small Potala. The biggest building has a height of 12 floors, and it is painted in red, yellow and white. The prayer hall contains a library with a multitude of manuscripts. The elegance of the painted figures waiting for us inside the monastery invite us to quietly enjoy those marvelous artworks without the distractions we had in the Hemis festival. In the courtyard, a wonderful panorama is underlined by prayer flags hanging from tall poles. Inside a temple arranged in 3 floors and surrounded by a group of balconies lies another gigantic statue, this time 14 meters tall, depicting the future Buddha, Maitreya. We reach Stakna in the evening and decide to remain there as the Rinpoche is praying with all the monks of the Gompa. The Rinpoches are the spiritual leaders of all the villages of the area and are also the administrators of the property of the monasteries. Their appointment, in accordance to Tibetan Buddhism, is carried out after a long search for appropriate candidates, following the guidelines set by previous Rinpoches. Faithfuls hold in their hand a ceremonial scarf known in Tibetan as kata, one of the symbols of Tibetan Buddhism. The scarf is oftentimes offered as a gift to divinities and lamas, but also to simple visitors. Katas come in different colors. For religious civil authorities, the scarf given as a wish for happiness is made of white silk. In accordance to Lamaist Buddhism, white symbolizes the spiritual perfection of the Buddha. However, in some temples or monasteries, it is not difficult to find orange or yellow katas. The offering of a kata follows a well-defined ritual. Whether it is offered to a lama or a simple pilgrim, the ceremonial scarf must be handed with hands closed in front of the forehead, bowing with the torso as a sign of respect. The following day we drive once again over the bridge crossing the Indo River. The clouds seem to cover the whole sky, but we keep going by planning a journey to the Mata Monastery. But before that, we pay another quick visit to the Gompa of Stanka. Given that today the Rinpoche is absent and the place is less crowded, we can spend some time quietly enjoying this small and inspiring place. On the road leading to Maso, Funsuk must avoid a small convoy composed of horses and donkeys, which in this area are still used to carry people and goods. With our noisy jeep, we reach the monastery, which lies right across the Gompo Thixa. It's a quick stopover, just the time to catch some breath before the long climb to the Kardungla Pass, a demanding route which will take us further north to reach, after all day on the road, the Nubra Valley. We need to cross one of the highest mountain passes of the world at an altitude of 5,656 meters. The climb to the Kardungla is long and difficult. Local drivers know this road very well. For them it's like a motorway. In a few hours we climbed from the 3,500 meters of the plain to the 5,600 meters of the pass, where the climate is much harsher. As we move forward, the fog gets thicker, and we reach the summit surrounded by snow. Because we're so close to the border with Pakistan and China, there is a strong military presence. Military convoys are given yield, and force civilian vehicles to stop for hours, waiting for the convoy to cross the road. Given its strategic military importance, the pass is kept open even in winter. The road gets narrower as we keep climbing, and we must trail behind other vehicles. Cars, trucks and motorbikes trudge up the mountains, bend after bend, with a wall of rock on one side and the mountain cliff on the other, without any guardrail protection. The most delicate moment is when we meet a vehicle coming from the opposite direction. It's a matter of inches, and in order to make it possible to advance, the drivers must carefully maneuver, without any margin of error. The landscape is breathtaking. You feel small before this amphitheater of rocks. In front of us lies the eastern chain of the Karakorum, and while descending the opposite side, we see the immense prairies dominated by the unchallenged king of these mountains, the yak. These Tibetan oxen look like great bulls covered in thick fur, and are peaceful animals. Their massive lungs allow them to live and breed at a great altitude, where oxygen is scarce. We reach the Nubra Valley in the evening, a true oasis on the top of the world. Between Handa and Diskut, we see long stretches of sand dunes and Bactrian camels grazing within small patches of vegetation. Before reaching the desert, we cross acres of fertile land, shining with intense colors, and right beyond the sand dunes we can count hundreds of apricot trees. A magical landscape that within a short distance shows an incredible variety of scenes, to then reach the hot water springs when we cross the river that flows along the valley. Early in the morning, we visit the small monastery of Handa, where an ancient monk is helped by a young and hard-working assistant. While Buddha lived inside his father's palace, he wasn't aware what existed outside. However, once out of the palace, he realized what the real condition of man is. And following the path to illumination, one step at a time, all the questions that troubled his mind were cleared away. If you want to get that inner feeling, you have to start from the bottom level. Once you start from the bottom level, your questions will be answered. And once you get to know these answers, inner happiness will come to you, whatever you're looking for. You'll never be able to reach inner happiness if you're somebody's slave. We need to get out in the open to find this happiness. And to be able to break these boundaries, we need to find our true selves first. Once discovered who we really are, we can get there. It's important that this pursuit is undertaken freely, not out of respect for me, but in search of what is good for you. We have a long chat together in one of the most remote corners of this region, near the border with China. Among the beautiful chortens, cows graze and a great number of children play. A lot of the stones we see display mantras, sacred utterances that can free the mind with their vibrational sounds, painted or engraved by worshippers. We feel a sensation of peace, and it's difficult to imagine that these mountains are a fragile dividing line between powerful nations that watch and scrutinize each other from the Himalayan peaks. I escaped in 1957 when the Chinese entered Tibet. They destroyed many monasteries and even killed many monks. I ran off and reached India after a long journey. During my exodus, I had nothing to eat, and for many days I just survived by drinking water. If I had to speak about the past, I would have so many stories to tell. Our homeland is ours. I'm always thinking about going back. There are so many things I left in my home, and it is the land of our ancestors. I want to go there. Here there are many things that resemble what we left, but in my mind there is the dream that one day we will have the freedom to return to our Tibet. Even my children don't want to live in another country. They want to return to their land and live there in freedom. It is now time to discover in our return journey the most spiritual place of the valley, the monastery of Diskit. Diskit is a real oasis dominating the Nubra Valley. The carefully plowed land enjoys a particular microclimate created by the confluence of the nearby rivers. The entrance to the monastery is gained by climbing a flight of stairs made of stones, leading to the prayer hall. The hall contains a statue of the Maitreya Buddha. On the second floor, another hall is decorated with images depicting ferocious guardian gods. Apart from being the home of about 100 monks, the walls of the monastery host a school for Tibetan children. It is now time to climb once again towards the Kardungla Pass. This time the weather is much better than the first time we were here. The high peaks of the Karakorum pierce through the horizon, and upon reaching the summit of the pass, we decide to pause and have a look around. The rarefied atmosphere makes it difficult to move. We slowly reach on foot the endless sea of flags where winged horses carry the prayers in the wind. Gusts of wind flow through fluttering colored squares of cloth that carry spiritual images and prayers. The 5 colors of the flags form a kaleidoscope of shapes, honoring the 5 elements. Traditionally, the center of the prayer flags is occupied by the Lungta, the wind horse. The horse symbolizes speed and the transformation of misfortune into good luck. Prayer flags are used to promote peace, compassion, strength, and wisdom. Tibetans believe that their mantra can be carried by the wind, and that good intentions and compassion can in this way travel everywhere. The air is thus purified and blessed. The prayers written on the flags become a permanent part of the universe, while their images fade when exposed to the elements, in the same way as life is replaced by new life. In this way, Tibetans renovate their hope for the world by hanging new flags next to the old ones, a ritual which welcomes the changes of life by acknowledging that each single being is part of a much bigger whole. We descend the demanding road leading to Leh, but before reaching the city, we decide to visit the Phyan Gompa. Built in 1530, the Phyan Monastery is the home of a busy monastic community, working on the preparations of a religious festival that rivals the one of Hemis. The monks rehearse their dances inside one of the courtyards, and we discreetly watch their moves, careful not to break their concentration. The dancers must learn by heart the complex movements of the charms. The long initiation required to learn how to carry out a moving meditation can last years. The dancer becomes the divinity itself, fully identifying with this force, in order to reach a superior spiritual awareness. The monks freely choose to dedicate themselves to the study and practice of the charms, and being selected to participate in the public ceremonies is a great privilege. The skills required are stamina, agility, and elegance of movements. On top of a high peak, not too far away, on the ruins of what used to be an old fortress, lies the Gompa of Spituk. Scattered along small yards and terraces, we bump into the familiar prayer wheels. We've seen them everywhere, whether in clusters or in single units of great size, made of wood or stone, and always painted with detailed decorations. The wheels accompany the prayer with a clockwise rotating movement that imitates the movement of the sun. Inside the monastery we find one of the most symbolic and universal of images, the mandala. The circle or cycle it depicts is common to other cultures, and examples can be found from the Paleolithic to the medieval Christianity. The monks in Spituk seem to enjoy the cycle of life in great harmony. Here, different generations of monks work and pray together, with disarming serenity and simplicity. A life focused on what is really essential, so different from our modern way of living. In the most intense hours of the day, when the golden light of sunset touches the peaks of the Ladakhian mountains, we reach the famous Shanti Stupa. The white chorten of majestic size sits on top of a hill overlooking the Leh Valley. It was built by Japanese and Ladakh Buddhist monks in 1991. Japanese Buddhists have always considered India as a sacred birthplace of Buddha, and upon termination of its construction, the Dalai Lama himself, Tenzin Gyatso, inaugurated the Shanti Stupa, which contains the relics of the Buddha at its base. The new day, the penultimate of our journey in the land of the roaring mountains, the Indian Little Tibet, begins with a marvelous spectacle that only nature can display. Mountains are not by chance the sacred symbols of this remote region of India, which draws the border between the peaks of western Himalaya and the vast Tibetan plateau. Ladakh is a sort of ancestral kingdom where spirituality is intrinsically connected with nature, preceding any religious creed. One of India's most spectacular territories, lying along the Indo River, and dominated by imposing mountains drawn along the horizon with an altitude spanning from 3,000 to 6,000 meters. During our route, we encounter the Zanskar River, which after flowing along the valley bearing the same name, merges with passion with the Indo River in a display of lively colors. The towering golden statue of the future Buddha, 23 meters high, welcomes us in the monastery of PREGHIERE. The Gompa is perched atop a small hill near the river and hosts a community of monks led by one of the brothers of the Dalai Lama. Once crossed its gate, a beautiful panorama can be admired through the small windows opening on the wall of the portico. In the courtyard, a flag hanged on a pole waves in the wind. It's a torch. Once again, these long flags have printed on them a collection of prayers calling for protection. They can be found in each monastery. Among golden and white chortens, we arrive at the nearby village of Alci, set within a fertile plateau. The small village is famous for one of the oldest monasteries of Ladakh, the Alci Monastery, mainly known for its 11th century decorations and carvings in Indo-Himalayan style. We take a break here before continuing our journey to the last two monasteries we want to visit in the direction of Kargil, in the heart of Kashmir, the region long disputed with the nearby Pakistan. After having left our camp along the banks of the Indo, we reach what in 1841, the year of its inauguration, was defined as a fortress of the mountain. Ritzdong. We pay a quick visit to the complex of temples and houses built along the side of the mountain touched by the sun. The surrounding valley is barren, and the Zanskar mountain range seals the panorama, making evident how this place was chosen for a monastic life of solitude and endless silence. Not too far from here, there's a nunnery of Yulichen, one of the few female monasteries of the region. We just take a quick peek, in order not to disturb the small community. The rumble of a convoy of trucks climbing the valley forces us to drive towards Lamayaro, in order not to get stuck here waiting for the convoy to pass. The last kilometers of our journey show us the traits of a land full of faith in the divine, of which nature is a symbol and seal. It's easy to understand how these places are an invitation to reflection and contemplation amid such striking landscapes. All sacred places seem to point towards the sky, perched atop holy mountains and oftentimes difficult to reach. Because the way to man's rebirth must be paved with difficulties. In the distance we make out Lamayuro, in front of the so-called Moon Valley, glittering with colors with its amazing stone giants. The sanctuary lies right in front of this valley. In this place, lost in time, silence carries in the wind the prayers of the monks, working with care on a mandala. For Buddhists, the mandala shows how the cosmos was born from its very center. With patience and craftsmanship, the monks depict places, images, and minutely detailed objects in intense, vivid colors. The protective circle of the mandala keeps the monks focused on what is essential, chasing away the worries of the outside world. We leave Lamayuro with sorrow, but with a sense of peace and protection that accompanies us. This is the end for us of an intense journey that made us forget for a few days any pre-established assumption, because up here the only reality that counts is the majestic power of nature, acting and reverberating inside our souls. This is the echo of infinity. Notwithstanding the name we want to give to the supreme force watching over all of us, we cannot live our existence without inquiring on who created it. No diversity of opinion can drive a complete wedge between peoples, as we all belong to mankind, and the voice of this universe in which we occupy a tiny place breathes in the heart of every man.